for revenue and receipts, think about how revenue gets recorded. Ultimately, you're going to have a journal which is going to say debit, your debtor, credit, revenue, and VAT if it's a local sale. And then from there, the receipt side of things, you're going to have to debit your bank and credit your debtor. So it's crucial that we see the journals, because when we're auditing the revenue transaction or the debtor transaction, we need to see that there is an opposite entry. And I can always go and test that that opposite entry was also recorded in the correct manner, and then get the evidence to justify it's been done so correctly. Okay, so something like this journal in itself, in order for this revenue and this data to be recorded, we've got to think about what process in the revenue cycle allows for this journal. And ultimately, it's when there is that signed delivery note. That's the source document that proves that risks and rewards have transferred and allows for that journal to take place. And when do they go about recording the bank? That's ultimately when they get the cash in. So there would have potentially been a receipt here, but you could also see that this would be in the bank statement. So if you're ever wanting to check the amounts here, you know what documents you should be looking at. If you're wanting to check whether it's recorded in the correct period, again, you know the documents that are going to help you with that. Okay, so we have to think about the cycle and link the cycle here, because that tells us when they can go about recording this. So what are your IFRS requirements for recording revenue? Guys, we're dealing with IFRS 15, and it says you need to identify the contract, identify the performance obligations, determine the transaction price, which is now going to be the rand amount, allocate that transaction price, and then recognize revenue when the performance obligation is actually satisfied. So these are the requirements that need to take place in order for revenue to be recorded. Key things in identifying that contract, guys, it needed to be approved by the parties. It also needs to make commercial substance. Payment terms must be identified, and it must be probable that this consideration would be collected. So this payment needs to be probable. Approved by the parties, so that signed delivery note would show that they've accepted the receipt of the goods. Or if there was a contract, a signed contract, that's showing whereabouts they are in terms of the performance of this revenue transaction. Okay, when we're looking at that transaction price, if there's any variables, they have to estimate those variables. And that's going to be important, because that's going to help determine this rand amount here, which is what they're going to record revenue for. Okay, so we can already see here documents that are going to be crucial to help see whether that revenue transaction should actually be recorded. That signed delivery note, which will have the date, which will have the contents that have been accepted, and in order to determine that rand amount, they're going to also need that invoice. So you're going to have the two documents here to help see if those IFRS requirements have actually been met. I said here that's obviously only if it is a local revenue transaction. So things to consider if it's not local, and therefore you're exporting, when we're looking at that transaction price, you've got to consider your foreign exchange in determining this transaction price. Okay, so what are the risks here? I've just said, let's look at the revenue side first. And on the initial recording of the transaction, because that is what the revenue entry here is literally the transaction. So we can see what is affected in recording a journal. There's date. So potentially it's recorded on the incorrect date. Okay, you would normally have first your date here, then your details, then your rand amount. So the incorrect date or the incorrect account. Maybe it's not recorded in revenue, or maybe VAT is added to revenue and that's recording VAT in the incorrect account. Or the incorrect rand amount. Because that is part of my journal. So just looking at the journal, I can already pick up 3 risks that could be effective here. I said to you that signed delivery note or that invoice, prove risks and reward transferred. So there could be a risk here that it hasn't transferred. And therefore shouldn't be recorded. And now they've gone and recorded revenue, and it shouldn't really be there. So these are the risks just looking at this revenue transaction as we see it here and in it being recorded. Then we're going to look at the other and opposite side of that, which is your debtors. So now, the initial debtors transaction, the initial recording of that, carries the exact same risks. Because it's a transaction, you can see here, they've debited the debtor, credited the revenue, and that's what equals the transaction. So where the additional risks come in is ultimately from the subsequent journal, and the risk that this actually doesn't even happen, in which case this debtor that was raised initially for this revenue transaction can't continue to have that balance at year end because it may not actually be recoverable. So when we're looking at the balance at year end for the debtor, there could be additional risks like that it's at the incorrect value, because they actually should be reducing it to record what they can recover. Or if they did recover and that bank was received but they didn't actually record it, so they're still showing a debtor when they actually shouldn't, so we can see that it doesn't actually exist. That debtor doesn't exist. The money was received, the journal wasn't recorded for that. Or potentially maybe they have given away their rights for it. That's looking at the journals that have been recorded. But then, guys, for both of these, there always is the risk that the journal was not recorded, the transaction was not recorded, and therefore we can go and add here a risk to each that it's not been recorded and it should have been recorded. So let's have a look at the account balance side of things when we're looking at the trade receivables. So we've said the initial recognition, it's recorded at the transaction price and it's initially recognized as a transaction and therefore has all those transactional risks with regards to that initial recognition. And the document that helps us here is the invoice and that signed delivery notes. Okay, to show that risks and rewards have transferred, you can record the debtor and the revenue transaction. But then IFRS says, okay, we have got subsequent measurements. it needs to be recorded at the recoverable amount in terms of subsequent measurements. So what you will be able to collect from the debtor, not what he owes, what you will be able to collect from them, to be prudent in your recording. And as a result, IFRS says you now have to calculate an allowance for credit losses. And this is now that adjustment to bring it to the recoverable amount. This adjustment is an estimate. We know that there's risks with estimates. There could be bias in determining that risk. We picked up the risks with estimates in 315, where we said it is a significant risk. And in ISA 240, it has a fraud risk. So straight away, we know that when they are determining the recoverable amount, that allowance could actually be incorrect to allow for them to record it at an amount that they feel is going to benefit them instead of what really will be recoverable. This estimate is all based on their own accounting policy. Right, so now when I'm looking at debtors and the balance itself, I'm going to have to first initially test that it was recorded correctly and then focus on that subsequent measurement, which is that allowance. Have they adjusted that? How do I test around that estimate? With regards to disclosure, all that needs to be disclosed with regards to your trade receivables is the accounting policy that they're using because it's their own. And so we've got to make sure that they have disclosed everything required in terms of that accounting policy for their trade receivables. Okay guys, next we're going to look at purchases and payments.